Our next speaker is Seth Miller.
Hello, my name is Seth Miller. I have 5 kids at Lincoln High and the one I will be speaking about right now. Okay. Friday night on February 7th, I was at home hanging out with my sons in the basement, playing ping pong and watching TV. My daughter had traveled to Fremont that evening with her junior varsity and varsity girls basketball teams. Later that night, I noticed the time and began to anticipate her coming home, either upset from defeat in which she won't speak to me, or happy because they won. When I heard footsteps running down the stairs, I knew she was home. When she approached, I noticed a look I have never seen before. A look that made me say, "What's wrong?" She responded by saying, "Dad, it was bad." I replied, "What was bad?" And she said, "The game. They were throwing things at us and calling us the N-word." My heart instantly dropped and my worst nightmare had come true. When I transferred my kids to Lincoln High, I wanted them to experience the diverse community of the school. I was aware of the possibility of these type of situations happening because they all play sports. I sat her down and the first thing I said was, "Welcome to Lincoln High," as tears rolled down her face. You may or may not know this pain as a player or a parent, but I can tell you this, it doesn't feel good. I stand here today to address a problem that I feel has been swept under the rug far too many times. I should not have to worry about my child's safety or well-being every time they leave my house to play a high school game, or feel like I have to attend the game to protect them. I believe many know about this problem and choose to ignore it because it's easy to do. Why bother, right? Well, I'm here today to say I care and something needs to be done immediately. This problem has plagued the state of Nebraska for years, and to find out the NSAA has never sanctioned any high school for any kinds of racial harassment is very disturbing. It's time to stop ignoring a serious problem and say enough is enough. I played basketball for Lincoln High 20 years ago and experienced the same kind of treatment many a times. I was told to beat them on the scoreboard. You have to have thick skin. Be the bigger person. Don't allow ignorance to stop you, Seth. I listened. I did what I was told. But never once did anyone ask me how I felt, if I was okay. It affected me throughout my career, including college. I found myself looking into the stands more and waiting to be called a racial name. I became numb to it. It was normal. At least that's what I thought. I understand on several occasions students have been removed from the game due to their actions, but I also understand on several occasions they have not, and many schools are repeat offenders. Those schools should be held accountable. There is no room for that type of behavior at a school event where kids are competing, playing hard, and representing their school with pride. I'll leave it at this. You can't bring about change with consequences and the demand for accountability. As a student athlete 20 years ago, the play through it, maintain the moral high ground mantra was practice. It shouldn't have taken me becoming a parent for me to realize these inappropriate actions must be challenged. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Our next speaker is Corey Raymond.
My name's Corey Raymond. I have 2 kids that go to Lincoln Public Schools. On February 7th that evening, Seth texted me. I'm very good friends with Seth and his family, and he told me what had happened to LaShavia. And he heard her story, and he told her, "Welcome to Lincoln High." Over the next couple days, I told Seth, I said, "Seth, there's a lot of good people at Lincoln Public Schools." And the Lincoln High coach put out that Facebook post. I said, "There's way too much going on. Way too many people know about this. Something's going to get done. I guarantee you there's way too many good people involved in here." And it was disheartening. Seth kept saying, "They won't do anything. They've never done anything. This happened to me 20 years ago. They don't do anything." And I kept telling him, "It's different. It's 2020. Something's going to happen." And Seth said they'll sweep it under the rug just like they did when I was a kid. I told Seth, you need to stay on the coaches, you need to stay on the athletic directors and demand something happened. And he did. He kept asking questions, but he was resolved to the fact that this would get swept under the rug. And I can tell you after that parents' meeting and after that joint statement, he was right. I mean, if any parent feels that this wasn't, that with a kid on that team, feels like this was handled appropriately, I haven't heard from one yet. And the thing is, I looked at your joint statement that you published after there was some pushback on this. This happened on February 7th. The investigation happened on February 8th. One day. You investigated this all, and you talked to the players, the parents, everybody that was involved on Saturday, the very next day, apparently. By Monday, it was resolved. 3 days later, Lincoln Public Schools had called Fremont. You'd apologize. The principals had apparently apologized to each other. I don't know for what, because from my understanding, nobody was at fault except for a few individuals. So what was that apology for? But the schools worked together, and then you contacted the NSAA on Monday, 3 days after this happened. Did any of the parents know about this? Was any parent asked about this? Was Seth Miller asked, hey, is it okay if we just work this out together and we just punish that one kid? Because I guarantee you, Seth and a lot of the parents would have said, no. 20 years ago, I was in that school and I was called the N-word. My friends were called the N-word. You know, I talked to my old law clerk, Johansi Christie, and he said, you know what? When we went up there to play football, our coach would sit us down and say, when you go on the field, be prepared. They're going to call you the N-word, and you cannot retaliate because they're going to flag you. Why are we asking our kids to accept that? Why are we saying you need to be prepared for the N-word and you can't retaliate? No, call the school, call Fremont, and say, this is what happened to us last time. If it happens again, we're pulling our team off. We're going to get a hold of the conference, we're going to get a hold of the Nebraska School Activity Association, and we're going to ask that we no longer play games up there, because this isn't our problem. Your racism in Fremont is your problem, and you need to fix that. And this has repeated and repeated and repeated. Sure, an individual actor, but if it keeps happening, you are a repeat offender. And stop asking kids. Stop asking Seth Miller to send his kid up to Fremont and be called the N-word. Stop asking all these people to do that. It's not their problem. This is 2020. You know, the other thing, so many people reached out on Seth's page and on my page and said, the coach from Minutair posted on Facebook, the Winnebago lady said, you know what, this is par for the course here. This happens to our kids every away game. Just
1 minute.
Skylar, I think you've all read that Skylar op-ed. Why are we handling it like this? Lincoln Public Schools, you are in the position to make change here. Those poor kids at Winnebago, they can't do anything, that little school. The Lincoln Public School could say, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to start holding these. You own the Heartland Athletic Conference. You own that. I've looked at all the schools on there. If you demanded that the Nebraska School Activity Association actually did something and not rubber stamped it, these parents don't want to work together anymore because it didn't work for decades. So start holding people's feet to the fire and say, we're not going to go up to Fremont. We are not going to do this. You had your chance, and it's your job to cure this, not ours. Do better.
Thank you, Corey. Our next speaker is Tara Simons.
Hi, my name is Tara, and I just want to say that my issue with LPS goes way beyond what happened at the Lincoln High and Fremont game. I currently have two boys that go to East. One is a junior, one is a sophomore. And our first experience that we had when our sophomore started East as a freshman, played football. We're at fall get-together, kicking off fall sports and everything else, and there was someone driving around the parking lot with a Confederate flag. This event was outside. Why is it that we are at a school event that is a fundraiser for fall sports, and my kids have to see a Confederate flag? Brought it to the school's attention. I'm told it's their freedom of, it's their right. It is their constitutional right to do that. Our kids have a constitutional right to be able to go to school and not hear derogatory comments. They have a right to an education without going to school being fear. or anything like that and being threatened. Recently, our son this year was choked on East property. Choked. Mr. Rainier, I have spoken to you numerous times about this. We have sent emails back and forth. We still have medical bills that is being paid by LPS. On top of that, he had to go to the emergency room. He had a dislocated finger. We had to take him to an orthopedic surgeon to make sure he did not have tendon damage and have to have surgery. He came home with marks on his face. We were told that the other kid was being suspended and it was being investigated and looked into, but now he still has to go to school with that same student that choked him. My son did not fight back. The only reason he was able to get out of the chokehold is because one of his friends came up and pushed him out of it. If that friend was not here, or was not there at that time, where would our son be right now? He was not going to stop. He was not going to take his hand off my kid. We got an apology from the school, but that is not the last incident that we have had. Recently, yesterday, our oldest son came home with a text message about 2 East basketball players referring to them as the N-word. They pick cotton, and they need to be hung from trees. Why is this okay? How are we expected to send them to school and know that you guys and LPS is going to do what is best for them? You expect us to, because if not, we get in trouble. They get marked as truant, which goes on their permanent record, and they get dinged for tardy, and if they get too many, a letter comes from the district attorney or the county attorney's office. What are we supposed to do? I have 2 more daughters that are going to be starting here in the next few years. I'm not going to go away. I will continue to call, I will continue to send emails, and I will continue to send medical bills as needed, and you guys will continue to get them covered if it is necessary to get things changed. I can do this for 14 more years because our youngest daughter is starting kindergarten next year. This needs to be fixed. It goes beyond sports. When I'm outside the locker room waiting for my kids after football practice and I hear the N-word thrown around knowing that they are in there and nobody does anything about it, that's not okay. It's not acceptable, and it needs to change.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Isaiah Rodriguez.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Rodriguez. My biggest concern here is just racism. It's just been going around since decades, and it just hasn't been fixed yet. Like, when I was in football, every single practice I wouldn't stop hearing the N-word, and it wouldn't stop. And every time I'd come from the locker room, it wouldn't stop. I've been bullied since 6, all the way up to still sophomore year. Everybody keeps saying the N-word and saying why, like, just keeps bullying. It's not right. Every time I walk through the hallways, just not a day goes by without someone saying any racial slurs to each other. I've had at least 2 fights. I've been in 2 fights this year just because of someone starting and saying racism stuff, and it just hasn't stopped. That's basically all I have to say today.
Isaiah, would you tell us where you go to school?
I go to East.
You go to East.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Pastor Janet Goodman-Banks.
Yeah, I really don't need the mic. I need to step back. Good evening. My name is Pastor Janet Goodman-Banks, and I'm here in support of Seth Miller and Corey and this mother that just spoke. Any student of color, any athlete of color, and any student, period. My son played for Southeast in 95 and 96. And he was a standout player there in pretty much every sport. But he played a basketball game, a regular season basketball game at Papillion. This was in 95, not 2020, in 95. And when we entered the gym, we arrived early with the team. Nancy Becker was the principal. We walked in and there were signs all over the school, in the hallway, in the gym as we entered in, targeting my son, who had never even stepped foot on the court yet. So he had to go ahead and play with that kind of pressure. He's pretty good about not getting in foul trouble early, had 4 fouls before the half. So then he had to play cautiously. Still ended up being the high scorer for the team and hitting the game-winning shot with 10 seconds left. He did a victory lap. I was okay with it. I think some of them weren't, but I was really okay with it. So this isn't something that's just happening. Then they played in the district. Same team, Papillion. And remember, I want to say this too because I was sitting in the back. Body language says a lot. I'm saying this to all. Body language says a lot. Okay? My son was playing and they were ahead. He got taken out of the game with like 5 minutes left. This was district, what you all call district. I'm from Indiana near Gary. You think of the movie Hoosiers? That's us. You all are football. We're basketball. So we have the passion. The coach took him out of the game, 5 minutes left. He's sitting down. Both teams were sitting on the side of Papillion. Papillion's fans and students started hitting my son in the back of the head with their fists and towels. He never retaliated. His team was trying to cover him. I'm a mama bear. I don't care about the game having 5 more minutes left. I ran across the floor. I wasn't trying to go on the outside either. I didn't care if the refs ran into me or I ran into them. I was trying to get to my son. And I stood up on the bench and I dared another student or fan to hit my child. And they didn't. The assistant principal, who was a woman, came over and cleared the whole section. The whole section. So, and my son is older than Seth. Now, do these kids have to continue to play for this district, represent this district? And things like this keep getting swept under the rug. We call these activities extracurricular activities. Is it extra what? Shaming? Racism? Is it extra racism? Is it extra bigotry? Because it's not extracurricular. Because then you're saying that those things are okay to be in the curriculum. That's what you're saying? And it's not okay. These children should not have to continue to be subjected into a hostile environment for the sake of a win, and their school district will not protect them. This could almost be equated to the black soldiers in the armed forces back in the day when they were segregated but fought for a country that did not fight for them.
1 minute.
These schools with black and brown athletes are playing for a district. You all. Lincoln Public Schools, they're playing for you all. Playing their hearts out to get a win for the district, but the district is slow to fight for them. In Indiana, real quick, my son was playing for Princeton Community High School. They played Tell City, Indiana. Google it. Indiana High School Athletic Association and Tell City, T-E-L-L, City, Indiana. They were crossing the tracks on their school bus, entering the city to go play, and there was a cross that was burning. The athletic director suspended them for 2 years. There needs to be consequences here. Fill out the necessary paperwork. I know some of the people on this board, and I know they're not okay with this. Do your part. There needs to be consequences. This is not okay.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Riker Lee.
Okay. Good afternoon, the members of the Board of Education. My name is Riker. I'm first generation immigrant from Taiwan. I came to US in 2008. I attended North Star High School from 2008 to 2011. I had absolutely amazing memory at North Stars, and I'm extremely appreciative and grateful for the education I received here. And I'm here to address some of the issues that have been brought out tonight. When I first saw the news of the Fremont incident, it reminded me of an incident that I was told when I was in high school. And I was not planning on coming tonight until I saw Seth Miller's Facebook post that regardless how long ago it happened, voices need to be heard. So I just want to share with you this. For the record, this did not happen to me directly. This incident, I did not personally see it happen. I did not personally witness it happen. It was relayed to me by my peers who supposedly saw this happen. So when I was in high school, I was involved with student organizations. And one time, we were traveling to the west of the state. I was in Columbus. There were students from my high school who were Sudanese students. And there were students from Omaha district with black students. When we were at Columbus, and then I did not hear this happen. Okay, so my peers said to us, my peers who was white, she said she heard that students from western part of Nebraska made very condescending comments towards students who are not white. And two specific things were being said. One was the student from west part of Nebraska said to people from Lincoln, Omaha, said, I did not realize there are black people here. The second thing that the student from western part of the state said was, those black students, black people need to be hung. This was at a high school